Welcome to the Hoops&Huddle podcast. I am Malika Walker, and we are joined by Shawn with the W of New York Knicks Film School. That's what you're doing now, right?
Knicks Film School, yeah,
Knicks
that
Film
works.
School. And excited. We are at our New York Knicks off-season episode. It's funny in New York, Brooklyn Nets fans, we were feeling pretty high the last few years. We had KD, we had Kyrie, and Shawn was the one that, was like, oh, the house is going to come burning down at some point. Well, it happened last season. And the Knicks, even though the fans always believed they were the kings of New York, that hasn't changed. They really are now, because we're not rebuilding, we're retooling. And the Knicks are still selling out like nothing happened, and they are the more stable franchise. So,
who would have thought?
Shawn.
Thank you for having me. Yes, June 30th, 2019 was a interesting day. And I remember, listen, I don't hate the Nets. I know there are a lot of Knicks fans that hate the Nets. I don't, because, and I say this in all is respect. I say this respectfully, like, the Nets don't have anything I want. Like, it's not like the Nets have had like this, decades of success, like the 90s Bulls or the Lakers or the Celtics. So like, while that day was annoying, it was like, well, we'll see what happens. And, 4 years later, here we are. Both teams are in, the Nets are in the best possible position considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
And the Knicks continue to take baby steps, which many in the fan base have begged this team to do, and to not make the quick fix and skip steps or what have you. So we're in a good place. I know a lot of people on Twitter aren't used to seeing the Knicks actually being a solid, well-run basketball team, but here we are.
Yeah, and that's my thing is with our owner Josiah. We'll see what happens with this growth. I do like who we have, but I do like what we have, but we'll see. Let's move on and talk about the Nets and not go down what I'm happy and not happy about regarding the Nets. With the Knicks, of course, your owner is still James Dolan. I got a feeling there's always going to be a Dolan, a member of the Dolan family. So what are your thoughts on your owner now? Is he still hands off? Like, what are your thoughts?
So I'm glad we started here, because while James Dolan has the James Dolan era at Madison Square Garden, for the most part, has been, how can I put it kindly, not good. And there have been mishaps and missteps and poor teams. And what's funny, for Knicks Film School, my colleagues just did an episode where they had a draft. They drafted the worst losses of the 21st century. And Jonathan Macri, shout out to him, he shouted out one of his first pick was you may not remember this. Only probably Knicks fans who are slightly older remember this, but in 2009, the Knicks they promoted what they called Dream Week. And Dream Week was, we played the Lakers on a Monday, the Kobe's Lakers on a Monday, defending Western Conference champion Lakers on a Monday, LeBron and the Cavs on Wednesday, and the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics on a Friday. And that was the game. And that Monday, Kobe scored 61 points. The Wednesday game, LeBron had 52, 9, and 11. And the Friday game, the Celtics just completely crushed us. And it was like, how could you call this Dream Week? This is Hell Week. And I remember saying, and I remember thinking, like, this, like, what is going on here? So that was under the James Dolan regime. And now somebody, and you know something? I actually read an interview that he actually said that, like, you know what? He's hands off because honestly, he got tired of being blamed for the issues of the team. And he realized, at some point, okay, I can't do this anymore. Let me bring in people who can, and let them do their thing. Now, I always say his biggest issue was that he hired the wrong people, and he's very loyal, and he depended on the wrong people. So whether it's, and I'm gonna start from I'm in the quote unquote hands off era, which I think to me starts with Phil Jackson. And the Phil Jackson era was left things to be desired. Let's put it that way. The way he handled the Carmelo Anthony situation,
front office man, he was
should never taken a job. And then when Phil was left the team, he let Steve Mills run the place, and he let Steve Mills do his thing, but Steve Mills was absolutely horrendous. But now we have Leon Rose, and he looked at the Golden State model, said, okay, let me get somebody. Now, people will also say that, Leon Rose is CEA, and he's been in bed of CEA, and now CEA is just gonna run the place to get his players. But I say all that to say, the issues facing the Knicks, whatever issues they're facing now, it's not because of James Dolan. Anytime anyone brings up, it's because Dolan is this, then the third, I'm like, tomato. You're not paying attention. You're just being lazy, and you're just, Knicks for clicks and all that good stuff. But the chairman of the Madison Square Garden company, or Madison Square Garden Sports, has hired somebody, and while he would rather, and he even said it in the interview that he gave recently, that he would rather the team be good and not tank, and let team be incrementally better. He has let people do their thing. He has let Leon Rose do his thing. He's let Leon Rose bring in front office people. He went and brought in Walt Perrin from the Jazz. He went and he brought in, and I'm skipping at the front office, but he brought in Walt Perrin from the Jazz. He brought in, why am I blanking on this thing? Brock Aller from the Cavs, who's arguably one of the best cap guys in the league. He brought in Tom Thibodeau, and Lord knows the discourse on Tom Thibodeau is, split, to say the least. But he brought in, he's been able to bring in his own people. He's been able to, James Dolan has allowed him to use his resources to bring in the best people, hire and build a front office, and has put together a vision. And I always find it funny when people say the Knicks have, people are saying, even Knicks fans, like 2020, 2021, Knicks have no plan and no direction. I'm like, no, the plan and direction is very, very clear if you've been paying attention. And no, they don't have to have a press conference to do it, but we'll get to that when we dive into the front office. But listen,
we can go to the front office. We can go there, because those are the next series of questions.
Is this visual also, or is just audio?
Audio.
Okay, good. I can just okay, all right.
I'm not visual yet. Yeah.
Okay, all right. But I'm not worried about James Dolan as owner of the team. And I would even go so far as to say, and I always believed this for years, even though, like I said, he's made some mind-boggling decisions. James Dolan wants to win. Now, the way he went about it stunk, but he wants to win, and he will spare no expense to do it. And I think if you have a team owner that he wants to win and he's willing to spend to do it, you're in a good place. Because there are many other owners, including team owners in very large cities, that do not really care about winning and will not spend. And I'm glad that we are not run by that person. So
That's
Um,
good. Let's
yeah.
move on to the front office. You guys just, I know Leon Rose is the president of basketball operations.
Mhm.
You guys just, it seems like you just lost your GM. Was that a big loss for your front office, or it doesn't, how?
I think so. You're referring to Scott Perry,
Yeah.
who, after the end of the season, parted ways. I think
Mhm.
the writing was on the wall from the longest. I think that because Scott Perry was basically the only holdover from the previous administration,
Okay. Okay.
and I believe that Scott Perry stayed on as GM because is more of a transitionary role.
Yeah.
It's well known that Leon has I mean, not just him, but most people, they have not a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but they want a lot of people he takes input from different people and then makes a decision. So I think for him, Leon Rose being a brand new first-time executive who never done a job before, leaning on Scott Perry for advice and guidance. Scott Perry is very well connected around the league, but honestly, when we brought in Gerson Rosas as a consultant, I would say like a week before the trade deadline in 2022, I always felt like, okay, Gerson Rosas, former GM of the Minnesota Timberwolves, that he will probably be the next general manager of the New York Knicks.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's fine. I mean, what happened in Minnesota, the reports of him having an extramarital affair with a staff member, and then apparently I had heard that the environment was very toxic.
Yeah.
It was a toxic workplace environment, but he's not running basketball operations. Leon Rose.
Leon Rose is. That's true.
Leon Rose.
Yeah.
So as long as
he'll be
Leon's
kept in reasonable check. Yeah.
So, like I said, the front office. So like I said earlier, people say they have no direction and they have no plan. I'm like, no. It was clear after a year that they had a clear plan, and it was a three-pronged approach. It was be competitive, accumulate assets, trade for a star. They have been competitive. Their worst season is a 37-45 season. Lord knows I've seen way worse than that over the years. The assets they've acquired, they have I think now it's 20. They have, I think, still 22. No, it's 21. They probably have 20. They have at least 20. Basically, going into this past season, they had 22 draft picks over the next 7 years, 11 firsts, 11 seconds. One of them was traded in a Josh Hart deal, so that's 10. And I think I don't remember who they took in the second round. But they have a lot of draft capital, a lot of good young players on manageable contracts. Josh Hart just signed for an extension, which originally was reported as 4 years, $81 million.
But that's the max.
But it actually came out it's actually just was released today. We're recording this on Thursday, the 10th, that there's a team option on the fourth year. So it's 3 years, $58 million.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Listen, he's the worst contract we may have signed in the Leon Rose regime is probably the Evan Fournier deal, and that's an expiring salary this year. So the Knicks, the front office has in 3 full seasons, have turned this team from rudderless, no hope, no direction, not going anywhere, to a competitive team that is good, that is very well positioned to trade for a superstar when he becomes available. So I like the direction they're going. I like what we've been doing, and I know that we'll continue to move in that direction. There's one player, and we'll get to them in a second, that I think this will cause the most angst about the Knicks fans when they poo-poo the front office. They're like, we need a star. We need a true superstar to win. We don't have one, and the guy that takes the most shots right now ain't gonna get us there. And yes, that is Julius Randle.
Yeah.
And I understand
But
that
Julius Randle can also be very. I see that he's toxic in the Knicks fan base, but he can also be very effective on the floor and have really good. That's the thing, is you have a really good series of games, and then the next few games or the very next game he's the complete opposite. That has to be frustrating for Knicks fans to see that he's just not consistent.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't say call him toxic. I would call him polarizing.
I don't mean like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But even among the
timeline,
but even among the Knicks fan base, I don't think it's toxic as much as, like, there are other things that are toxic. But I think he's polarizing because he has as many detractors he has a lot of supporters. Excuse me, more than most people think. But to your point, the reason why I say he's polarizing, because sometimes he looks great. Like, we always talk about, like, are we getting good Julius or are we getting bad Julius? And you can tell really quickly if you're getting bad Julius. And, but when you get good Julius, he's really, really good. So, but with that being said, the front office, I have full faith in the front office. This is the best front office we've had this century. It's arguably the best front office we've had since in my basketball watching life, and I've been watching this team since 1992. So I don't have a problem with them. Have they had missteps? Yes. So does every fan, but every front office group. Listen, I just saw the Golden State Warriors trade the number 2 pick of the draft 2 years later for a second rounder. So even the best of the best have their hiccups, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
That's good. What do you think about Worldwide West? I keep hearing that he's, I hear mixed things. Oh, he's using his expense account, or what do you think about his contribution to the front office? I know he's very connected, but
yeah, I think he's there for vibes. I think and his connections. I think there was actually a point where they were considering not hiring Leon Rose in the official capacity of the team, so that way he could just go and tamper. And I feel as if the league was like, no. This dude needs to be hired so he can follow the rules of the league. Like I said, connections, the CA connection, the Kentucky connection. There's a story about how he was the driving force behind the team drafting Emmanuel quickly. Like, in the draft room that night, he's just like, quickly. So shout out to him for that, because we got a steal at the 25th pick.
Yes.
But he's there for vibes, and yeah, he's there for vibes. I think he has input. I think Leon Rose values his opinion. But I don't think he's not on the road scouting. He's not in Utah checking out who the next game. He's not going to be at the combine, looking up, ooh, is this kid from Missouri any good? He's there for vibes, and that's fine.
He's there for vibes, and okay. Emmanuel quickly, this is his last year on his deal. It looks like next year he'll be one of those people out there looking for a new deal. Let's look at the roster now. We come to the fun part. looking at the roster. Like you already mentioned, I love Josh Hart. I've been a Josh Hart fan since he's entered the league. I think he's a really good role player. He plays his role. Young. So we talked about a few minutes ago that his contract, is 3 years, like the guaranteed part is 3 years, 58 million, you said?
Yep.
So you should be pretty pleased with that pickup. So let's talk about how Josh Hart fits within the Knicks, and then you can move on and talk about Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, that was a really, really good pickup. Another Villanova. Y'all can't have the other one. The other one. We need him, and we desperately need him in Brooklyn. So, but you guys got a nice, setup. So I wanted you to talk about your squad.
So Josh Hart, championship teams have guys like Josh Hart, guys who are, like you said, glue guys, like you said, willing to do the dirty work, rebound, defend. I want his I want his shooting to improve. When he got to the Knicks, he actually was like literally shooting like over 50% from three, like for the remainder of the season. But there were times where he was not shooting. There's Cedric Shawn, who you know, my partner from Live from the Mecca.
Yeah.
Will always tell you the story about game 2 of the playoff series against the Heat. And the Heat by this time, the Heat had basically sold out to say, like, we're leaving you can have all the threes you want. We're leaving you open. And I would see Josh Hart get the ball behind the top of the key or the corner, whatever, not shoot. And I started screaming like, I was like, this is not a Josh Hart series. And he's like, yes, it is. And then we're going back and forth. I'm yelling. I'm like, he won't shoot. He won't shoot. So if he can just be a consistent league average 3-point shooter and take them when he's open, then we got a freaking steal. Dante DiVincenzo, it's been the worst kept secret in New York that Knicks have lacked for shooting. Yeah. Needed that.
Really good pickup for you.
Good pickup, plays defense as well. My only concern, so my two concerns of the two Nova boys are this. When it comes to Dante, someone told me this. I forget who it was. But last year, I think like over 40% of his 3-point shots were wide open. Like wide open.
Well,
and we know why.
Yeah.
And well, guess what? The reason why I don't play here.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that, like, if he can shoot as well, because if he's like the only threat out there on the floor at any given time, they'll be like, okay, there's not gonna be a defender more than 6 feet away from you. And with Josh,
would it help that this would actually can help Evan Fournier? Like, I know he fell out of rotation a little. No, I'm serious. Like, if you have Dante DiVincenzo, I always mess up his last name, Dante, and
DiVincenzo,
yeah. And then what if Coach tries them in the lineup? It could actually help space the floor, no? Like, you don't think so?
In theory, it will space the floor. In practice, you are probably never going to see Evan Fournier play for the New York Knicks ever again.
Well, if he's not traded, he'll just be on the roster.
He's gonna be. I wouldn't surprise me if they told him just like go
stay home.
And I say that.
Okay, I was thinking maybe they do want to. Maybe if he catch some heat, he can be traded. That's all I was, not stay on the roster. Yes. I mean, play him to get him traded, and then get another shooter. Like, I think with Dante, what is key, because if Barrett isn't hitting, if Barrett is going through a slump, because he goes through a slump sometimes, and you have Julius Randle, he could be hitting, but I just think that with spacing, he does need spacing to me. So that's one thing with him
that's understandable. By the way, I just found that Dante DiVincenzo took 215 threes with a defender 6 feet, was wide open, which is, the NBA says, is defender 6+ feet away. Like I said, that's not necessarily going to be the case. Yeah, but whatever.
That's why I'm talking about. That's why I mentioned the spacing, because something.
and as for Josh Hart, the thing that my concern about Josh Hart is that Josh Hart is the type of player that coaches love, and a guy like Tome Thibodeau really loves him. So now it's automatically penciled in that Josh Hart basically closes every game. And sometimes, even no matter how well he's playing or how not well he's playing, it's like, nope, Josh Hart has to be on the floor. It's like, and I call it most favored nation status.
That's.
So basically what happens is there's basically, so if you think about it, crunch time, Jalen Brunson is going to be on the floor, Julius Randle is going to be on the floor, and a center is going to be on the floor because, 48 minutes of rim protection, Tome Thibodeau. So that means you have 3 spots available for Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, Dante DiVincenzo. Now, let's say DiVincenzo, he's a bench guy, right? So they have 4 spots available for 2 of them. And if Josh Hart is one of them, that's 1 spot for RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, or Emmanuel Quickly. Now, I know your listeners who are not Knicks fans are probably saying to themselves, who the hell cares? It's RJ Barrett and it's Emmanuel Quickly and it's Quentin Grimes. To you, I would say, Emmanuel Quickly is a really, really good basketball player. Quentin Grimes is young. Yeah. He's on the come up. So
and he'll be on the contract year when
yes.
he'll be hungry.
So I will be curious to see if Josh Hart is automatically closing, or if, as Tibbs has been wont to do sometimes, like he'll go off the hot hand. So like if RJ's killing it and Emmanuel Quickly's killing it, then maybe Josh Hart doesn't start. I mean, doesn't close the game. But so that's my take on those 2 guys.
What about Hartenstein? How do you feel about him?
So Isaiah Hartenstein went from what we call it the Alfred
for him as well. Like
yeah. So he's arguably the best backup center in the league. Mm-hmm. I think Tom Thibodeau needs to get more out of him because there's so much he's a really good passer. We don't use that skill set enough. He's had a rough start to the season. It turns out he had a sore Achilles, so he really struggled the first couple months. Really came on. There was a game against the Lakers where Anthony Davis was just taking Mitchell Robinson to lunch at school, and Ihart came in, and I'm not gonna say shut him down, but played guard again really, really well. I don't know what's gonna happen because so he can't be extended, so he's gonna be a free agent. Yeah. I would like to see him back, but he may be able to get this. May be able to start somewhere else. So
he may be able to start somewhere else. Yeah. And Emmanuel Quickly, do you have any concerns with him being overeager with this being a contract year? Do you think, how do you feel about him next season, his aggressiveness, his play? Like, I like Emmanuel Quickly. I love his upside. Mm-hmm. I really, really like him as a player, but I'm looking at your contracts. You guys are below the luxury. You guys are below the second apron, so you have room for your mid-level exception this year, I believe.
Actually, we Dante signed to the mid-level.
So Dante signed to the mid-level. So yeah. So quickly, what are your concerns about being able to retain him? You got 3 high-level salaries here. What are your thoughts?
I believe a consolidation, and we've said this for the longest, I believe a consolidation trade is coming.
I do too.
And
I think there's going to be a few big ones.
And okay, so here's what I'm saying. I believe Emmanuel Quickly will be extended before the season starts. And as much as this pains me, I believe that one of either Emmanuel Quickly or RJ Barrett will not be a Knick next season, not this upcoming season, but the 24-25 season.
I agree.
Because if and when the star trade happens, there will be a consolidation and one of them's going to go. Emmanuel Quickly was our 3rd best player last year. He did not do as well in the playoffs. Maybe he was pressing too hard or things like that. And then, he got injured. Thanks, Bam Adebayo. But he's all the advanced metrics, when he's on the floor, good things happen on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. He's not necessarily the best point of attack defender, but help defender, knowing where to be, passing lanes, he's so good. So I think this year, now he had an interview last year where he says, he wants to start, and as long as Jalen Brunson's here, he ain't gonna start.
Right.
But I would say, I'm gonna shout out to my man Mensa Smith, who said this on a Knicks Film School pod, that he said that he hopes Quentin Grimes has really good health, because if Quentin Grimes were to get injured, And Emmanuel
That was a
quickly,
big thing last year. I kept
yeah.
hearing Quentin Grimes. Yeah, yeah.
If Quinn Grimes got injured and Emmanuel quickly was a starting shooting guard for an extended period of time, Quentin Grimes may not get his job back, because even though Emmanuel quickly is 6'3", I believe he's listed as. Where is it? He's listed as 6'3". He has a 6'8" wingspan. Spoke about his defense. Clearly, the 3-point shooting is there. There's a really, really good player in there. And if you're gonna trade him, you trade him after you trade him. You extend him on a good number, and then if you explore trade.
That makes sense, because I honestly think, the Knicks are in market, a prime market for a star. I think you guys have built up your roster enough that it will attract a star to come there. So before we go to who you would like to see, let's talk about Jalen Brunson. Let's sing his praises. And I think he was overlooked for the All-Star game. Did he make an All-NBA team?
He did not make an All-NBA team.
I think he's one of those players that, he should have gotten something. So let's sing the praises of Jalen Brunson.
Jalen, what's funny? They said for years that the Knicks, no one wants to go to the Knicks. The Knicks can't attract stars.
They can't.
The Knicks attracted a star. And the pushback I get, even from Knicks fans, who are like, it's just because his godfather, excuse me, it's just because his godfather is the team president. And my pushback to that is, listen, if it were that easy to sign star players by just hiring their relatives, then anyone could do it. Like, I have an idea. How about we just hire Luka Doncic's aunt and make her head of security,
or one of the Jokic brothers?
Let's make the Jokic brothers head of security. Let's hire Luka Doncic's aunt and make her a head of PR. Let's go find Luka's dad and make him, whatever, head chef. And if it's just that easy, like, no, because
the Mavericks felt that loss. I think the Mavericks made a huge mistake with Jalen Brunson. Because even though I love Kyrie, your favorite tween. Your favorite tween.
Tween, hezzy tween, step back, lay.
But I think that Jalen Brunson was the perfect fit with Luka. And they're still friends. They still have a good relationship. But hey, he's doing his thing as a Knick. You got him locked in through 2 more seasons, and then the 25-26 is he's going to decline that to go for another contract. And that's the same year. Julius Randle is probably going to get traded for then. Maybe. We'll see what happens there. Anything else you want to say on Julius Randle, and you can talk about Brunson a little more. Get to the coaching at some point.
In terms of Brunson, like I said, listen, you need 2 stars. The Knicks got one, and the Knicks signed him for free away from Dallas.
Yeah.
And God bless the Dallas Mavericks. Listen, it works for Dirk Nowitzki. The how we would view that franchise would be far different, but I digress. We have a star. People think he can get better next year. I mean, I don't know how. I think that'll be asking a lot. But I do think next year will be, because there's always discussions about who's better. Last year was the
first year with these guys. I mean, next year he'll at least have some. That's what I was thinking. Like, he'll have more from he'll be more familiar with them, and it could be a better year for him.
And it'll be a better team around him, and I think next year will be like the. Wow, Jalen Brunson All-Star, Jalen Brunson All-NBA conversation.
Yeah.
The Hawks fans like to say that he trades clear of him, and the Halley Hive wants to talk about Halliburton. I'm like, listen, man, Jalen Brunson gonna show y'all something this year. As for Julius Randle, so my take on Julius Randle is, okay, I mean, it's not reporting anything that he's not the best player on a championship team. I actually think Julius Randle is better as a 6-man than like a number 3 option or a number 2 option, because
he sees himself as, that dude. So
exactly, but that's why I say, like, when they talk about like the Knicks trade for a star, then it's gonna be like Brunson, Randle, and insert star here. I'm like, when like someone has to be Chris Bosh.
mm-hmm.
Someone has to be Kevin Love. And I do not think Julius Randle is going to be... First, he's not a good enough three-point shooter to just sit in the corner. And I don't think he's going to be happy with that role. Like, the reason I say he's better as a 6-man, because that guy against bench units, where he has all the usage, is way more productive than being a guy just standing in a corner who is also not that great on the defensive end also. So... you said you think Julius Randle will be traded. I've always said I think he goes in a star trade.
I think only if it's like a star. If it's a star,
he goes in a star trade.
I think it has to be a star trade. Yes. I'm not saying he's trade bait for no. It has to be a star trade.
I always make the joke that the front office never ever has a reason to trade Julius Randle, because when Julius Randle's bad, it's like, we can't trade Julius Randle. His value is at its lowest. We need to rehab his value. And when he's really good, it's like we can't trade Julius Randle. Look how good he is. It's like, so when are you going to trade Julius Randle? But like you said, he's going to go in a star trade.
He's going to go in a star trade. Before we move on to coaching, what is Mitchell Robinson is your center. And also, can you speak to how you feel about Jericho Sims? I'm just curious.
Jericho Sims is an NBA player. We drafted him 58th. So the fact that we found an NBA player in the 58th pick in the draft, again, speaks to how well the front office is doing. I think his ceiling is a career backup, which is fine. But like, the kid has bounce, the kid has legs, but like, he'll get a rebound. And like, so if Mitchell Robinson gets a rebound, so they actually teach the centers, if you get an offensive rebound, look out to the 3-point line, see if anyone is open. So he'll do that. But if he gets a rebound, it's going back up. Jericho Sims get a rebound, and he could be under the basket. There's a 6'9" guy in front of him, and he's just like, so he has to do better on pick and roll defense, but he's like I said, he's an NBA player. We took him 58.
Right.
And Mitchell Robinson, this season this was his best season. He killed the Cavs in the playoffs, but then again, he was neutralized against the Heat in the playoffs. There's no offensive anything whatsoever. He's not even that great in pick and roll. So it makes team building hard. There was actually people, myself included, that thought there was a good chance that Isaiah Hartenstein will be the starting center by the end of the year. But Mitchell Robinson, like, offensive rebound machine, rim protector, he's really good season.
So we'll see how he does next season. Is there anyone on the roster that you want to point out that we haven't discussed?
I would like to take not even 3 minutes. I like to take 90 seconds to discuss Ron Alexander Barrett Jr.
Okay.
Known as RJ. RJ Barrett was the prince that was promised. He was also the consolation prize of the Zion Josh sweepstakes. There was a point in time where someone on the Knicks Film School podcast, after game 2 of the Cavs series, referred to him as matching salary, as in that's what he'd be in a trade. That's always good for. And then it's like the light bulbs went off, and he had a really good stretch from game 3 of the Cavs series till about game 5 of the Heat series. I think he shot like 55% or something from the field. Like, he was really good. As I said earlier, I feel like either one of those two guys between RJ and Quickly are going to be gone. It's gonna suck either way, but like I so want RJ Barrett to succeed, especially since he gets a lot of crap from non-Knicks fans, and as he gets a lot of crap from some Knicks fans, but there's a lot of crap from non-Knicks fans who say he's not good, he's terrible. And listen, RJ's brought a lot of it on himself.
He's on a big contract too. So.
Yeah, but he's on a manageable contract, and he's like,
it is manageable.
And these people who think that $20 million is now as it was when Amari Stoudemire signed, it's like nah. But
not the same, no.
He hopefully he showed just enough that you're like, all right, this year, so I want to see I would love to see the leap from this guy this year, and to make it at the very least make it difficult for the front office to trade him.
I feel you on that. I would love to see that for RJ Barrett and Nets fans. Yes, I just think this popped up in my head. I'm not one of those Nets fans that hates the Knicks. I detest some Knicks fans. Shawn is one of the good ones.
I detest some Knicks fans too, so I
had Knicks fans, not all Knicks fans, the obnoxious ones, but not the team. I'm a Josh Hart fan. I like Jalen Brunson. I do watch some of their games, but Nets world. You're the coaches. Some of the Knicks fans that I follow were hoping that there would be a coaching change, to get somebody more progressive in there as a coach with this team. Didn't happen. You still had the same coach. He's set in his ways. That's the only thing with him. When you have a coach that's been doing it for as long as he has, he's pretty set in his ways. But what do you want to say about your coaching staff? Any changes you think is realistic that you want to see?
So, I think this upcoming season will be his last full season with the team. Because I think the star trade is coming either this season or next off season.
Yeah.
And once that happens, once you bring in the superstar, the clock starts ticking, and if things don't go well, he's going to be a scapegoat. James Dolan told Leon Rose during the 22 season, the bounce back, after that season from quote unquote hell, it's like, listen, if you're gonna fire him if you want to, you go ahead, I don't care. But Leon stuck with him. I say this all the time. Tom Thibodeau is a good coach. He is not a great coach. He is not a terrible coach. He's a good coach. And you can win championships with good coaches. Not every coach who wins a championship is like Pat Riley, Red Auerbach, or Steve Kerr, what have you.
I feel like Spoelstra really took the heat as far as, he could take them that bunch. But
yes.
I really like Spoelstra.
I would say for me and for many other Knicks fans, the most frustrating part about Tom Thibodeau is that he is set in his ways, because it's not as if he cannot be progressive and adapt. He just doesn't want to, unless he is backed into a corner and he has exhausted all other options. We have a saying at Knicks Film School, rent due Tibbs is better than rent paid Tibbs. Because when the rent is due, he's going to hustle and scratch and claw. I mean, listen, he was, December 3rd. Was it December 3rd? I believe it was December 3rd. December 3rd, I'm going to look this up right now. I believe it was December. Yes, December 3rd, 2022, the Knicks lost to the Mavs at the Garden, 121-100. It looked like they let go of the rope. The Mavs scored 41 points in the third quarter. And coming into town the next day was the Cleveland Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell. And everybody at this point, they're 10-13. Everybody thought that was it. Everyone thought that was it. And what does he do? He benches Evan Fournier, which people have been calling for the longest. He benches Derrick Rose, which no one ever saw coming, because it was like, oh, he'll never bench Derrick Rose. puts Miles McBride in. He took Cam Reddish out the lineup. He put
Mhm.
Miles McBride in the lineup. He went to a 9-man rotation, and they won the game. And there was a game, I would say there was a game maybe a few weeks before where there's something that we'd always been clamoring for was to play Obi Toppin and Julius Randle together, and he refused to do it because neither of them are good rim protectors. But there was a game against the Sixers where he did it, and we're like, who is this guy? But he knew that it was going to be his ass. So he can be progressive, he can be flexible, he can change things, but he wants to win. He wants to win his way, and ultimately, I feel like that's gonna get him ultimately out of a job. But like I said, he's a good coach. He's not great. He's not terrible, and you can win with good coaches. But I don't see him. I mean, he's also an old man. I mean, he's 64 years old.
Yeah.
So 65. He turns 66 next January. So. I don't think he'll be fired, but I think he'll be they'll move into find a position for him in the front office. But yeah, you want to talk about polarizing. Him and Julius, they're lightning rods.
Now as we look back, and you said you've been watching the Knicks since 1992. First of all, before we go there, what if wild guess? What range of wins do you see the Knicks in next season?
I think
between a healthy range.
A healthy range?
Yeah.
45 to 50.
Okay.
50 is a stretch. I'd be shocked if they won 50. Well, it depends on how things fall, who's good, whatever. But I think this team is a really good regular season team. And I think they will win 45. I think they're going to win around 45-ish, 47, 48. I can see them winning 48 again. So I think they're solidly a top 6 team in the Eastern Conference. Okay.
As you look back at your favorite Knicks team, you've been watching since 92.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been watching since the 90s Knicks.
Yes.
So what is your favorite team and why? Which year?
My favorite Knicks team. I would say it probably is. So my favorite Knick of all time until recently was Derek Harper, and he was on that 94 team that made the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, obviously, me, I was 13 when we made the finals, and him and Starks and Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley,
loved John Starks.
Yeah, everyone loved John Starks. All the girls loved John Starks when I was in high school. Oh, John Starks! But no, shout out to him, Anthony Mason. Who am I? Obviously, Patrick Ewing. Rolando Blackman, that team was special. I tell people, I say it Game 6 against the Rockets in 94, John Starks puts that shot up, puts up that three that Hakeem Olajuwon gets a fingernail on to block it. And I say, for 1/2 of 1 second, I thought the Knicks were world champions. For 1/2, and listen, a lot of people can't say that. And obviously we lost Game 6, we lost Game 7, and if you had told me that's the closest I would have come to winning a title, I wouldn't have believed you. When it comes to favorite, the 99 team, I think, is my favorite because that team came out of no freaking where to make the finals. First AFC to make the finals. We were the only AFC to make the finals to the stinking Heat this year. Only AC to sweep a playoff series against the Atlanta Hawks. Haha. But that team of Allen Houston, Sprewell, Ewing, Larry Johnson. The Larry Johnson 4-point play is my favorite play of my Knicks watching life. So I love that team because it was just so much fun. beating the Heat, who we hated, sweeping the Hawks, no one cared about, beating the Pacers, who we hated. And then by the time we got to the finals, half our team's injured, and there goes Tim Duncan. Close second, the 2012-2013 Knicks were really fun.
They were division title winners.
They won the division. They won 54 games. They were number 2 seed. And that was another team that came out of nowhere. And that team, there are 2 Knicks teams that have had that people do not realize have had an oversized influence on the league. The 90s Knicks with Riley in the defense, and it honestly, the funny thing is that those 90s Knicks teams is what helped spur the changes in the rule that you see now, and made it like the game less physical, more flagrant fouls, whatever. That 2012-13 Knicks team, which is coached by Mike Woodson, who took over from Mike D'Antoni, but was running D'Antoni's principles. Yeah, spread him out, bomb away from 3. Excuse me. You had your guy Melo could score, but that team was so fun to watch. And yes, that was the 7 seconds of Suns less was 7 seconds or Suns, 7 seconds or less Suns team. Was up and down, up and down, up and down. But that Knicks team, I believe they set the record for threes at the end of the season. That Knicks team that just put up an ungodly amount of threes. Now you see all the 3-point shooting now. That team. Steve Novak in the corner with the discount double check. The vest that we brought in, Jason Kidd, Rasheed Wallace. I always say if Rasheed Wallace didn't get hurt, maybe things would have been different. Tyson Chandler was Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously,
Tyson Chandler to me is underrated as a pro.
He is. Yeah. And Melo was he finished third MVP that year, but it was so fun to watch that team. It was.
Does Carmelo Anthony deserve to have his jersey retired as a Knick?
For me, no.
Okay.
I think it's going to happen. And I'm not going to lose sleep over it if it happens. But we won 1 playoff series in 6 years. But I think that I've also come to realize that we're a little bit older than a lot of people on Twitter, and for a lot of Knicks fans, that 2013 team was the best Knicks team they ever saw, and it was led by that guy.
It's the kid Nets. Yeah.
So if you're born in 1991, right, and you started watching the Knicks when you were 10 in 2001, that lost in the first round to the Raptors, and then it was garbage until Melo showed up. It's like you look at Melo differently. So I understand.
That's why I was asking, because I sometimes I see things on praising Carmelo Anthony, and I was like, Carmelo Anthony, that's a whole nother day. I'm gonna have to do a whole different thing on Carmelo Anthony, because with the Nuggets, it's like mixed, how he left that team, and then with the Knicks, he took the money instead of, he took the money. I mean, so yeah, with him it's interesting because sometimes when players retire, it's like, that's what I think Paul Pierce is going through. He's going through this catharsis where he was a good player, but he sees himself as greater than.
Well, I mean, those Celtics, those always Celtics, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but Carmelo was good. He was really, really a good player. But he had his relationships with the teams he played on. I don't know. I don't think they ended on the greatest note.
Yeah, I agree. I'll say this. The number 15 in Denver should be retired twice. And we'll just leave it at that.
Yep, I agree. Well, we have come to the end of the New York Knicks off-season episode. I thank you for your time tonight, Shawn.
I appreciate you having me.
You can find him on Twitter, Shawn with a W.
Shawn for W underscore.
Underscore. Don't forget the underscore.
Some jackass has Shawn for W. I will get it from him one day.
One day you'll get it from him. And I appreciate it. I appreciated this talk and this deep dive. And everyone have a good night. I always do that at the end of these and I have to cut it. Idiot. I'm gonna have to cut this whole section. So anyway, have a good night, Shawn. I appreciate you.